All right, boys and girls, today it is lesson 15, and today we will really be considering and learning about our final type of story problem. These are considered equal group stories. Now, if you remember from last year and from our common conversations, when we hear the term equal groups, we are commonly thinking of multiplication. And in fact, that is what an equal group story problem involves, a multiplication type of pattern. Let's look at a typical story. In the auditorium, there were 15 rows of chairs with 20 chairs in each row. Altogether, there were 300 chairs in the auditorium. If you were to sketch out a picture of this, boys and girls, it would look like an equal groups story. We have 15 rows of chairs, all the way down to 15, and 20 chairs in each row, all the way to 20, and we would end up with a diagram something like this. In order to find out how many chairs total, we could certainly add 20 plus 20 plus 20 plus 20 15 times, or we could multiply 15 and 20. Excuse me. I don't know about you, but I would much prefer to multiply than to add all of this up. So 15 times 20. Now, if you remember our fancy way of just hanging those zeros off the end, we actually can set up the problem to look like this. 20 becomes a hanging zero. We can only do it when 0 is the final digit. We draw an imaginary wall. We ignore the 0 for now, and we simply multiply 15 times 2, which is 30. Then we go back and add our hanging 0, and we realize that there are 300 chairs total. All right, now let's get into a little bit more nitty-gritty. The pattern for an equal group story is a multiplication pattern. The steps we use when we're solving these problems are exactly the same. It's a 4-step process. First, read the story carefully to identify the pattern. Second, write the equation using all of the numbers we are given and using letters for the information we are missing. Third, we solve. Fourth, we write our answer. Let's work through an example together. Oh, let me go back real quick and just tell you that we often use the term EG to identify an equal groups problem. So, looking at our example. At Russell Middle School, there were 232 7th grade students in 8 classrooms. If there were the same number of students in each classroom, how many students would be in each 7th grade classroom at Russell Middle School? Now, you might quickly be starting to think, oh, we got to do division, we got to do division. And I would say you're right. Ultimately, we will use division to solve for this problem, but we won't do it until step 3. In the meantime, we have to identify steps 1 and 2 first. So, let's begin. The problem lets us know we are dividing some number into equal-sized groups. Therefore, step 1 of the problem is to identify this as an equal groups problem. Step 2 is to fill in the information we know. Some number of students times 8 classrooms equals 232 total students. What we don't know is how many students are in each classroom. Therefore, this spot in our equation receives the letter. Some number of students times 8 classrooms equals a total of 232 students. This was step 2. Now we're ready for step 3. We remember that when we have a missing number in a multiplication problem, we can find our missing number by taking this product, 232, and making it our dividend. We'll divide it by one of our factors, which we know, which is 8, and we'll arrive at our missing number. 8 doesn't go into 2, so now we'll look at 8 into 23. How many times will it go in without going over? And it will only go in twice without going over. 8 times 2 is 16. The difference between 23 and 16 is 7. And we bring down our 2. 8 goes into 72 9 times without going over. 8 times 9 is 72. The difference is 0. There is no more to bring down. Our problem is finished. Step 4 will be to write our answer. S must equal 29 students. And we circle it. Let's check against what the book has done. Looking good so far. And yes, 29 students would go into each of those classrooms. All right, would you now work through problems A and B on your own? I do want you to write out all 4 steps as you solve your problem.